Have you ever heard of a card game bullet hell? I haven't either, but I kind of just conceptually thought about this idea this morning. Hellcard describes itself as a deck builder roguelike, so I don't think it directly falls into a bullet hell, especially since it's, a turn-based card game, but it certainly feels like one. Do you want to take your turn-based deck building roguelikes to the next level? We love Slay the Spire here, absolutely love Slay the Spire. Hellcard takes that and kind of just amplifies the amount of everything happening at once. So you, instead of going through the different combat levels and it's just like 1 to 3 enemies, Hellcard has a field and it summons a bunch of enemies, and then just the deeper you go down the hole, the deeper you go down the spire. I don't even know what it's called in Hellcard. The deeper you go down into the pits, the more levels you go down, the more enemies that there are, the stronger there are, obviously, and then the more just threat they have in general. And this game goes from 0 to 100 actually so fast, it's insane. The first few floors, you're just like, oh yeah, this is pretty manageable, a couple of spiders, a couple of little puffy corpses and whatnot, I'll wish away these things with my cards and we'll go on to our next thing. But once you get down to the first mini boss, you get an awakening slap across the face, and it's like, oh my god, I'm in this right now. Hellcard is a fantastic deck building roguelike, and oh my gosh, some of these runs, you get all the way to the end, you take like an hour plus to get there, and you finish it, and you're just like exhausted. I can only handle like one of these, maybe 2 max at a time, especially if I go all the way through, before I'm like, all right, I need to take a break from Hellcard for the day. But I absolutely love it. The whole process is amazing, and it fills me with joy throughout the run. So let me give you a kind of quick overview on what Hellcard is and why it should catch your fancy. So, super base, there's 12 levels, there's 12 dungeon floors in a run. There is also an endless run available, an endless mode available, and you get to choose between 4 or 5 if you buy the DLC, different characters to choose from, which each obviously have their different playstyles and abilities and cards and whatnot. Just like Slay the Spire, there is a run and a build and whatever for everybody. There is a character for you, whether or not you like to play the Silent, who's just going to keep discarding some cards. You can at least play and enjoy the Silent with poison or the Silent with shivs. That's kind of similar how the characters in this game function. They've each got their different builds that they can run. However, you're kind of going to be roped into just getting and building whatever you're going to use a lot of the time until you kind of, figure out the nuances and the little bitty ways that this game works. So there is also co-op multiplayer for up to 3 people. So that's you and 2 friends, and you cannot pick the same characters. So you all have to pick different characters, and you each get to pick a different floor to go through. And each floor that you go through has a different reward and different enemies based on whichever one you pick. You get 1 of 2 to pick from, and you get to see exactly what enemies you get to fight and exactly which reward you get at the end of this floor. And the rewards vary from, a smithy where you get to upgrade your cards, this person that'll remove cards out of your deck for you, a rest stop. There's a couple of just interesting things. You get some artifact floors, some gambling floors. It's not directly gambling, but you can gamble. There's a gambling option. So let's take a little gander over and we'll introduce ourselves to these characters, shall we? I should also mention that if you do play in single player, you get to come across different characters that you get to recruit as part of your build or you're part of your crew. So when you play solo, you do not end up playing the entire game technically by yourself. You do get to control how these players are played, so they're not NPCs by any means. They just they come with a build and a set of cards, a deck if you will, and you just get to play them throughout the floors. And then outside of the floors, they'll upgrade some cards and they'll interact with the rewards as they wish. So you will always get the 3 rewards at the end, no matter what, whether you're playing co-op or solo. So it's honestly a very different experience playing solo and multiplayer. And I'll have to put one more hold before we introduce ourselves to our characters. So cards come in 3 different sets of categories. There is an influence category, a skills category, and an attacks. Attacks, obviously attacks. Skills is, I don't really know how you would go between skills and influence. Influence is typically something that's going to buff you in some way, shape, or form, or give you a different edge on the battlefield, whereas skills is mainly going to be like you're drawing cards and getting block and stuff like that across. That's generally the vibe of how those card categories feel. But first up is the warrior, and his different play styles are attacking with his sword mainly at close range, so the field is split in between long range and short range. Warrior is the king of short range combat. He's going to do mainly single attacks. He's got a couple of AoE attacks in his kit, and then he's going to defend himself and his allies both. And then a lot of his buffs are buffs to sword damage, buffs to blockability, and then he's also got this really cool idea of stamina. But stamina you build up through different cards. Once you get to 10, your next card is played twice and it's played for free, and then your stamina goes down. There are also extra cards, mainly attack cards, where you deal 3 damage and you can spend some stamina to make it 5 damage. So there's some cards that take a little bit, but typically you just build up stamina all the way to the max and get your double free card. It's fantastic. The rogue is mainly centered around shooting enemies at long range, so you're going to want to be able to put everything out in the long range area so that the rogue can take care of things. She also has a strong ability to, you know, move things between long, short, long, one side of the map to the other. So she has a lot of cards that can move the enemies. She also has some empowering stuff for obviously making those arrows do more damage. She has this cool set of cards where you can turn the gems that you get outside of the area into your actual damage. So there's cards where it deals like twice the amount of damage you have to gems. So if you have like 9 gems, which is a substantial amount, you can deal 18 damage to one enemy. It's fantastic. And then she's also got bombs, which is one of my favorite things. So bombs come in a multitude of different styles. Some of them stun a bunch of things, some of them do a bunch of damage, and then you place a bomb out in a section, either you're close, your friend's close, or long, either one. It's got to be one of, it can't be every single section, but it's got to be just one section. And then you have to draw an ignition card to blow it up. And then we've got the mage, who is kind of like a utilities man. He does a lot of damage. He's got bolts and runes, the ability to freeze enemies, give people and himself extra mana, block, draw cards, stuff like that. So he's kind of everywhere all at once kind of dude. He can do a lot of damage. He can also apply mark, which is applied to one enemy at a time typically, and then the more mark they have, the more damage it does. So if somebody's got 1 mark, all those damage instances will do 1 more. Now runes, bolts, and books are different keywords for his build and for his deck, and you kind of want to focus on one of those rather than all at once throughout your build, because you'll get certain cards that do more or have better effect if you have X amount of books in your deck, X amount of runes and bolts in your deck, and stuff like that. Now we get on to my favorite character, the Tinkerer, who just got a massive rework. The Tinkerer is all about building cores and building bolts, and what you can do with these bolts is build contraptions, and then they just kind of sit and do their thing. So you build a contraption that, there's one that's a fire sprinkler that just deals a damage in a slight cone, and the cone will hit everything in near and far as long as it's going out, and you can just build these build these contraptions. Now whereas the rest of the characters mainly go on mana and like nothing else, the Tinkerer actually has a second resource. It's those bolts. Those bolts can be used to play cards. A lot of these cards are free. Most of the contraptions are free. You just have to pay bolts for it. And then the cores, now the cores used to be going into contraptions, but now typically when you play a contraption, it'll use a core and basically double it. And then there's just some little things that'll be improved if you use a core to do so. And that's a super basic rundown of all these characters. I don't have the DLC yet at the moment, so if you guys are interested in seeing the DLC character, let me know and we'll work something out. Now for the sake of the length of this video, I don't want to go into an actual overview of the run and, you know, mansplain every single little thing and every single little, you know, objective, any card and whatnot throughout the run. But if that's something that you're interested in seeing from me, please let me know. I have a second channel that will be relaunching later, probably next month, but that's where I would put something like this. So if you're interested, please let me know and I will absolutely do it and get it up to you as fast as possible. But that's just about do it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed this quick overview of mainly the characters and what this game is. Again, if you're interested in seeing more of this game, please let me know. I would absolutely love to go into more depth, because this game is absolutely fantastic and I've had a blast playing this ever since it came out. And the developers for this game are fantastic. They're working on this game. It's getting a lot better and I'm super happy to see where it goes and then where the developers take their next game. So again, hope you've enjoyed and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.